Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Carter.
And today we're doing our ignition system lab sheet.
Alright, so here on our 2018 Hyundai Tucson, we can see our ignition coils. It is a coil on plug ignition system. As we can see, we have two wires. We have a red wire and a gray wire.
Our gray wire coming out of pin 1 on the connector is going to be our signal ground wire, and our pin number 2, which is the red wire, is going to be our battery positive.
Our ignition system and our coil packs are a married type ignition coil. Here, if we look at the wiring diagram for our ignition coils, we can see that our ground for the coils go to the PCM with a shielded ground around all of them, and then our power comes from our main relay. So our gray or white wires will come from our pin 1 on each coil pack, and then our red power wires will come from pin 2 on each coil pack.
Right now we're getting our resistances for our primary coil and getting around 0.9 ohms, and our specification, as you can see, sitting at 0.75 with a 15% plus or minus range. So we're doing good. Yep.
So now if we measure the resistance of our secondary winding, we'll put one lead in the coil pack and one lead on our pin. We are reading about 5.78 kiloohms.
As you can see here, all of our readings were very close to specification. They were all within the 15% threshold.
Alright, so one way for us to observe our ignition timing on a vehicle is with a scan tool. So if we watch this PID data while we start the vehicle, you can see that we are already advancing 21.5 degrees. As you can see, it dropped down to 15.5. We can just watch our reading. And now it's staying around the same at idle. If we give the engine throttle, we can see it retards our timing about 6 degrees. There we went up to about 45 degrees of advance, which is pretty high. Again, 33.5 degrees. Okay, so now when we hook a picoscope up to our 2018 Hyundai Tucson, we have our signal wire connected to our ignition coil ground, and we have our ground wire attached to our battery positive. And you can somewhat see our dwell time and our voltage spikes up to about 200 millivolts because of the attenuation. So here, if we look at our picoscope reading for our idle ignition, we can see our dwell time at the bottom, and then we can see our voltage spike going up to about 0.1 volts because of the attenuation. So now we have the Hyundai hooked up to our ignition coil signal and our crankshaft position sensor signal, and we can watch our readings.
And this is going to be for our CKB. You can see that reluctor wheel where you can see the tooth missing. And on here, you can also see our voltage spike and dwell time for our ignition system.
So now we have an amp clamp hooked up to our number 1 ignition coil. And if we look at our reading, we can see that our yellow reading is going to be for our ignition coil voltage. As you can see, the dwell time and our spike. And then the green line is going to be for our amps. So you can see that we hit about 2.5 amps. And it follows a similar pattern as our voltage.